Alright, so it's a nice autumn Saturday, and I was feeling like playing some Halo. And I know last time I did a little level design focused video, it ended up being almost 2 hours of talking about sewer levels. This time it's not going to be about a sewer level. I want to talk instead a bit more about combat encounter stuff. Um, yeah, so the level that I'm in is the Silent Cartographer. Um, I've already completed the first encounter here, so I'm going to go ahead and restart from the beginning so you can all see the intro cutscene and all of that. With my other level design study videos, what I've done in the past is like play through the whole level and give commentary on the whole thing, and I think it can get kind of tedious. So I'm going to try something a bit different this time and just focus on this first encounter. Um, I think I'll still probably end up talking too much, but yeah, let's give it a shot.
The Covenant believe that what they call the Silent Cartographer is somewhere under this island. The Cartographer is a map room that will lead us to Halo's control center. The island has multiple structures and installations. One of them contains the map room.
We're approaching the LZ. It's gonna be hot. Get set to cut out, please. Touchdown. Hit it, Marine.
All right, so one thing I want to talk about before we even do this battle here is what the cutscene did there was really cool. Like we're flying in on a Pelican. I'm gonna have to pause to explain this so it's not too much combat noise. But like if it was just the one Pelican flying in and it switched to the in-person camera, I might not make the connection from like the third-person view of the Pelican to being inside of it that I'm on board the same thing that's flying around. So they have a second Pelican dropship behind me that's flying in behind. Well, yeah, it's following, and that helps like confirm that yes, what I'm sitting in is one of these that's also flying behind me. So it's almost like a first-person shot at the same time as a third-person shot. So it's a really nice context. And same deal, like I've got camera control once it switches to first person inside of the dropship, and I can look around and see the other soldiers getting ready for the drop. And then once we get to the landing, we all pile out, and I can look to the side and see other soldiers piling out and being fired on. And now we've got this cool action. Well, all of my AI buddies are dead because I didn't help them, so this is going to be a tough fight now. That's alright, because we'll give it another shot in a minute. Yeah, I think I'm gonna die here, but let's go ahead and go into the fray. Alright, so now let's play a little bit more properly. So now that we've played through it, both unsuccessfully letting our AI buddies die and successfully, I think we've got some stuff that we can talk about. So I'm going to restart the last checkpoint here and then try and start breaking down what's going on. All right, so first we need to talk about some of the core mechanics of Halo for those of you who aren't familiar. I've got 2 weapon slots which I can switch between. By default, I've got the assault rifle and the human pistol. Human pistol has a zoom on it, which lets me take longer range shots, although there is some spread to them. Assault rifle, not actually all that useful, but it does let me just kind of spam shots, and you know, it works for chewing through grunts, stuff like that. Enemies drop weapons that I can pick up. This is the Needler, which has tracking projectiles. It's kind of a gimmick weapon, at least on the harder difficulties. You know, I'm playing on Legendary, which is the hardest. More useful is the plasma pistol. Yes, it's a gimmick weapon, and I still get the kill there. But one of the main systems in Halo that you've probably already picked up on, just observing those last 2 fights, is that there's an energy shield system and there's a health system. So if you look in the top right of the UI, I've got the shield icon and I've got the health. The health is more of a traditional, like, kind of Doom and Quake attrition-based system where I need to pick up health kits to replenish that. The shield system is more of a Call of Duty system where it gets drained and then can replenish. The replenishment is based on being out of combat. So once my shield cracks, I'll get feedback and I'll start getting this kind of alarm on my suit saying like, oh no, shield's down. And I need to duck and get behind cover in order for it to start replenishing. It can replenish even if I'm still running around. It's just that if I get shot, it's going to stop the progress of recharge. And also, you know, apply that damage to whatever amount was recharged. So let's go ahead and try and demonstrate that here. Yep, so my shield's cracked. And let's get it like halfway and I'll take another hit. Yep, so you can see it started and then it took another hit and froze and then depleted again. And I believe that the time on the shield regeneration is variable based on the difficulty. And again, playing on the hardest difficulty, it's a pretty long wait before my shield starts to replenish. But yeah, the enemies, some of them have shields, some of them don't. These little guys, the grunts, do not have shields, which makes them pretty easy targets. They've got nice big heads for easy headshots. The bigger guys, which are elites, do have energy shields, which means I need to sustain damage in order to actually defeat them. It's not enough for me to do chip damage over time. Their shields, I don't know exactly how the recharge behavior is on them, but functionally they're a bit more like tanks. Tanks and kind of brawlers. So coming back to the landing of this beachhead, there are a couple grunts holed up in these rocks on the side. They're really easy to take out because they're grunts, but if you don't observe them and you don't prioritize them, they can start chewing through your Marines. You also have a couple grunts in these first layer of rocks, and this first elite kind of with them. And elites kind of behave like squad leaders. So there's a mechanic where if you defeat the elite, well, the grunts are still alive, the grunts will go into panic. And they'll even say a voice line, leader is dead, run away. And once they're in panic, that means they're no longer throwing grenades, they're no longer trying to shoot at you. So if you have the opportunity to take out the lead, sometimes they're a higher target priority than the grunts. But like I mentioned, you got grunts over here that they might be throwing grenades, they might be using these charged plasma pistol shots. And one of these charged shots will fully deplete my shield, So if they're doing that, those guys might be higher priority than these guys up front. What's interesting though is that we've got a pretty good numbers advantage against this first group of enemies, kind of on this side of the knoll. But then this hill behaves as kind of a pivot between the first fight and the second fight. They start with control of it, then we gain control, and then this edge right here lets us start firing down on them. After we've taken this fight, then we see these reinforcements in the distance come around the corner and push up. They're out of range.
Affirmative. Echo 419 inbound. Somebody order a warthog.
Oh, I think we waited long enough that that triggered the cutscene or checkpoint. So we might actually have to restart from the beginning on this. We'll see. But these guys are far enough away that I don't want to engage with them. Like my pistol and accuracy isn't going to be consistent enough to be able to drop these guys. Especially like if I was playing on a controller, that'd be the case. Yeah, so let's go ahead and try loading the last checkpoint, see where that puts us. Cool. Yeah, so you can see that was just two grunts firing on me, and they just about broke my shield. So even though they're fodder enemies, they're still a threat.
Hold your fire! Get out of the way! I'm going after him. Boom! Can't hide from me.
So interesting mechanic here is that the plasma grenades, the little purple circles that, or I guess spheres, that were on the ground there, they can chain react, which is one of the really fun mechanics of Halo. When that first grenade blew up, it caused the other two to blow up in quick succession, which is a lot of fun. So in addition to the shield and health mechanic, the AI buddies don't have shields. They're entirely attrition based. So as these guys are moving forward, they're taking a lot of damage. One of the other mechanics is the melee. Different weapons have different melee speeds. AR is pretty fast. Yeah, so here's, I was just going to say, here's the spot where I need to duck behind cover and let it reset to keep up that fight. Weapons are also physics-based. I was looking for the plasma pistol there, but the grenade he dropped when he was dying caused it to fly away. But the melee, I was going to mention a back whack, melee into the back, is an instant kill against the elites. So if you can have them distracted by your marines or by other enemies, oh, there was a plasma, then you can quickly dispatch them.
Where are your glasses, boy? Move! Right on! Hey, leave some for me! More! Is that all you got?
So you've got the weapons, you've got the melee, and you also have the grenades, which the grenades, for the most part, aren't about actually securing kills. You can do it sometimes, especially with the fodder enemies, but the elites are really mobile. So like if I throw a grenade at this guy, he does a little backflip out of the way there. So it's really hard to actually secure a kill with an elite with using a grenade. What they're useful for, though, is that once you've damaged the elite and their shield's low, they'll duck behind cover, and the only way to secure the kill at that point is to flank around and get up close. But you can use the grenade to pressure them out, and that way, like, the grenade's a really nice way of making the enemy move. It's basically crowd control that's dressed up as a weapon. As you can see there, I did 2 grenades, one to pressure them into the second one. I'm going to be in trouble here, though. So one note there is that weapon pickup doesn't require me to look at it on the ground. Weapon pickup is based on proximity. So if I'm standing nearby, it'll see whatever weapon on the ground is closest to me and I can pick it up. I don't have to look at the ground, which it lets me keep fighting and stay fast as I'm swapping out weapons. So one other enemy type to talk about is the Jackal. They don't show up until the end. They're the guys with the shields. And they have plasma pistols as their weapons. And I think next time we get to them, I'll try and talk a little bit more about them. Yeah, a little lucky chain reaction there. Alright, it's these guys. Once their shield is actually held in front of them... Oh, I just downed them there on accident. When the shield's held in front of them, you can shoot the handle where their weapon's held, and doing that will break their shield and expose them for a moment to be able to follow up and get a headshot, or body shots. Yeah, it's like there. I can stagger them, basically, if I shoot right on the edge of the shield. The other option is to wait for them to do a maneuver and then shoot them while their shield's not in the way. On their own, the Jackals aren't that hard. On Legendary, that's there are cases where they can be really difficult because these guys fire a huge amount of projectile. But when combined with elites like this, they can become a real threat because similar to the grunts, they're kind of a ranged pressure unit, not a melee unit. They aren't throwing grenades, but the plasma shots, especially the charged plasma shots, can be a real danger. But if you aren't able to actually crack open their shield and get rid of them, then you're just spending time exposed to these other enemies that are firing at you. There we go. Yeah, so they're using the 2 different grenades to pressure in one direction and follow up in the other. Alright, so now let's talk about it from a level design perspective. I think we've got a pretty good idea of the weapon systems, energy shield, health, all that stuff, what the grenades do, what the different enemies do. But now, like, the level design itself is kind of peculiar. It's a big open terrain, and like, you consider this is a game from 2001. For context, you've got Call of Duty coming out around the same time. I want to say 2002. You've got Medal of Honor in 2000, I think. But most first-person shooters prior to this are very much in the Doom, Quake, Half-Life lineage of interiors, not big open spaces like this. Definitely not big open terrains. So consider 2001, you're seeing this, you've got AI buddies, which was, again, a very fresh thing. Like, Call of Duty did it as well, but like, this is very different from what Doom and Quake were doing. So I think from level design perspective, it's almost wrong to think of this in terms of like more traditional level design techniques. It's in some ways closer to something like Company of Heroes, where it's RTS, real-time strategy level design. And unfortunately, that means that like my vocabulary for what this is doing is a little bit more stretched. Like I kind of have to apply the terms that I know to what's going on here. So like first thing is that these outer rocks behave kind of as a foothold to, well, I mean, first we've got a kill zone, right? Like we're landing in a kill zone, and if we stay here, there's this feeling of danger. Even though the reality is, you know, these guys are shooting projectiles, they aren't using hit scanned weapons or instant fire weapons, so we're actually pretty safe so long as we maintain distance, right? Like if this guy shoots at me, I can just dodge, right? Come on, buddy. The second thing is that the enemies are really passive. Like, they aren't going to take the attack. We take the attack to them. And, yeah, so there we see we've got some projectiles. And yeah, basically so long as I keep moving, he's just never going to hit me. And this is something that Jamie Griesmer talked about in his GDC talk, Design in Detail, Tuning the Muzzle Velocity of Plasma Bolts. Because this is kind of a problem. If players know on Legendary I can just keep strafing and I will never get hit, so long as I'm far enough away, then a lot of the challenge can kind of disappear there. Halo 2 took a very different approach with the elites, but that's kind of a separate conversation. But yeah, I think still though, in terms of feeling the player's land, it feels like this is a dangerous spot, it feels like safety is in the rocks. The enemies are holding the rocks, but if you push up, you can pretty easily break this first group of enemies, and there's only the one elite to deal with. Then as we fight these guys, we have a couple choices. Like if we want to, we can push up on the left and take out this little nest of guys. This is kind of a leashed position. Although, like when I've talked about leashed AI in more Doom and Quake stuff, in those it's usually like they're up on a balcony or they're on a ledge and they physically cannot get to you. In this case, these guys very easily could just rush out here and try and fight us. So there's something going on with AI behavior or AI scripting that is telling them, hey, stay here and stick to a ranged role. Don't try and do close combat. And even though as a player, like we don't know, we see a grunt, and we don't know if it's going to be trying to do this ranged behavior or if it's going to try and close the distance, or we don't know exactly how it's going to behave. It still feels okay. It doesn't feel like they're behaving inconsistently or randomly. It feels like it's just one of many different behaviors that this enemy type can have. So that's one choice. Other choice is we let our AI buddies, our human buddies, deal with those, and we can keep putting on the pressure. And there's this feeling after we get this first area cleared that the enemy might try and retake it, right? The reality is no. Like the enemies are very passive, and they're waiting for us to go over this ridge and take it to this next fight. And again, if this was Doom or Quake AI, this kind of like leashing to a position would require that there'd be like an actual separation in the map. And even then, the enemies would be like trying to run towards you here, like, I'm trying to get to you, right on the edge of the boundary. In this case, these AI are almost passive in this position, and they just aren't going to leave it. I can back off. Yeah, now Cortana's saying the area is secure, which is very much not true.
You know our motto. We deliver.
So the other option is that I could push along the beach side and try and take the knoll from this angle. And I've got the shield up here that behaves, again, as a kind of foothold for me. You can see, like, this is a really good position, or it could be. Alright, and then once we secure the knoll, we've got, again, some more cover that we can use, this massive tree. And then we've got another little kill zone. But the enemies aren't directly on the other side of the kill zone. There's basically a foothold of this rock on the other side. If that rock wasn't there, and we just had to push up against their fortified position, that'd be really, really difficult. So instead we have this rock that lets us safely approach. And now we're in decent fighting range for our human weapons. Oh, I should have shown that off there. Once the shield breaks, they've got basically two different behaviors they can go into. Either they duck behind a rock and try and hide, or they go into a berserk and will rush your position. Which, when they do that, they start yelling, they raise their hands in the air. At that point, I don't know if they try and shoot anymore. They might just try and melee. But they can be really disruptive if you aren't quick to react. Which I guess is like my habits of 20 years going there that I took them out as quickly as I did. Yeah, here you can see the jackal. Very obnoxious. Like that's a ton of plasma that it's firing. And if I wasn't dodging, like, my shields would just be evaporated instantly. So you get two of these guys, and like, if you aren't target prioritizing them, or you aren't able to disrupt them, like with a grenade, and force them to move, or just blow them up, then yeah, they can just chew through you. All right, so let's do it again. And one of the reasons why I wanted to talk about this, and want to do this deep dive of this particular combat section, is I think the thing that Halo does great, the thing that's kept me coming back to Halo for 20 years, is that it's got what I think of as meat and potatoes. So I think more of the Half-Life approach is like set piece design. Like, here's this really cool moment that you get to experience. And Halo, like this beach landing, isn't a very strong set piece. Like, you compare it to what Call of Duty did, especially Call of Duty 2, just a couple of years later. And the set pieces in the Call of Duty games are incredible. Like, that's a really, really high point. And this is, it's not as flashy, it's not as exciting, it's not as memorable. But what it has as this kind of meat and potato encounter design is a lot of variability. If I make it to the end of this encounter with all of my AI buddies, it's no guarantee. If I make it to the end of the encounter with no AI buddies, it's also no guarantee. It's not a Call of Duty encounter where it's scripted that you've got certain predefined characters that just can't die. Yeah, like this time I didn't actually provide that much help to the AI, but they made it all the way to this elite encounter. Oh, but I'm gonna die here, I think. Yep. But I think where this idea is best expressed is Matthias' Worch talk that he gave on level design at GDC, where he has this idea of the checkpoint test as a way of evaluating basically orthogonal unit differentiation. And the idea is if you reload a checkpoint and you're presented with combat choices in your encounters, are you doing the same things over and over? And in a game like Halo, absolutely not. Like, the game is incredibly varied from checkpoint to checkpoint. Like, I've been playing this I've been playing this same combat encounter for what, 30 minutes now. And each time I've played it has been a little bit different. And just to show that off, now I'm gonna do some strategies that are really, really different.
Covering fire!
And of course, some of these strategies will fall apart because I am playing on the hardest difficulty. But if I was playing on lower difficulties, then some of these strategies are a lot more viable. Yep, like this strategy is looking like a bad one. But I think for me, this is why Halo has so much replayability. Like, you know, I'm playing it single player right now, but imagine that you can also play this co-op. And where am I going to go? Where's my friend going to go? How are we going to coordinate our fire? It also opens up more strategies with grenades. Like, if we really want to pressure these guys, where are you going to throw your grenade? Where am I going to throw mine? Yeah, so that was a totally different way of playing the same encounter, but um, it was still possible within the sandbox of Halo's gameplay. I think that's due to some really robust AI, which, like, I don't understand what's going on in the hood well enough to really talk at length about that. You know, from my perspective, it seems like there are kind of leash areas where the AI is trying to stay in a volume, kind of similar to like Mario 64, or enemies will chase you up to a certain point, but after a while they'll just go back to whatever they were doing. So there's that going on. It also seems like there are maybe some invisible triggers that I'm crossing, or like invisible counters where like I've killed a certain number of enemies and now it's telling the enemies, hey, retreat, or hey, pop up around your corner as a reinforcement. Um, so I think there's some invisible scripting like that going on to tell the AI what to do. Um, but it's like really hard to know for sure without actually seeing behind the scenes. Um, but like there's a lot of variety, and I think like there's a lot of substance and meat to it, which um, again it's not a real high point of some set piece design, but you know, like if I want to, I can take a needler and play with that. Um, I mean, there's so many different ways of playing the same encounter, and like it might seem a little silly what I'm doing, just playing this over and over and over to try and demonstrate this point. But you know, in 2001, I want to say it was like Christmas Eve or something. I got this Xbox demo disc that was this collection of demo levels from a whole variety of original Xbox kind of launch titles because that was part of the launch year. And my friend and I, uh, sampled these various different demos on this demo disk. We got to Halo, and the demo level is the Silent Cartographer. And we load it in, and it's that beach drop. It's this first encounter is what was on the demo disc. And for us, just that beach drop was so exciting and so fresh, because you have to consider, prior to this, it was GoldenEye, right? Like GoldenEye on the N64 is like as close as we had for comparison as like mainly console playing players. Um, and now we've got this massive island that we can explore. And we did exactly what we did here. Like we played through the whole map the first time. And we said, wow, that was awesome. Let's play it again. And we played, reloaded, played to partway through, and then said, I really like that beach section. Let's just play that again. And we probably replayed the first couple sections of the map like a dozen times that one night. And I think for us, like especially compared to GoldenEye, like the amount of variety in the encounter design and in the AI was really, really striking. And for me, it's like why I still keep coming back to this game. So I think one more thing I want to talk about here before I start wrapping it up is the role of the friendly AI. I mentioned already that is this kind of novel experience to have friendly AI. But part of what the AI do here that's, I think, really special is that they're kind of they're like an announcer for the player. They're, I guess, like diegetic is the word for it. But their way of giving feedback to how you're doing. So you may have already picked up at some points the AI companions will say, leave some for me. Well, now that I'm riding around with with the plasma rifle, it's probably not as obvious. So let me go ahead and restart here. And just listen to what the AI say. Good one. Nice throw. Good one. Yes, that was an interesting encounter here. These guys pushed up to this first rock this time, and then we forced them into a retreat.
More over here. Let's do it. Under fire, amigo.
Yeah, so you can see the AI are giving me a lot of feedback on how I'm playing. Same deal.
Who wants it?
Oh, I accidentally turned on the enhanced version, which I guess I can show that for a little bit. This is the enhanced version. I prefer the original. But if you start firing on your own AI, they'll say lines like, watch where you shoot. And they'll say things like bad cyborg, and let you know that, you're shooting a friendly, and you're doing something that you should feel bad about. Yeah, so I think last thing to do here, to really see all this home, is this whole island is an island. And if I just want to let those guys fight, and I want to do my own thing, they can have their fight. And eventually here, Cortana will send that message that dropping off a warthog, area secure, even though I'm sure our Marines did not actually survive that encounter. But hey, look, I'm now at a completely different encounter.
It looks like there's a path into the interior of the island.
Let's go ahead and just take a loop of the island. We've got alien dropships dropping off more enemies.
There, a brick wall. I'll bet the Silent Cartographer is somewhere inside that facility.
And now we're back around towards where we started. Now imagine again, playing the single player, this is a bit silly. But if I was playing this co-op, I might have a buddy with me here. And now we've decided to take this initial beachhead fight with Warthog, right? With a weapon that's, or I guess vehicle weapon, that's meant to be something that you get after this fight. And it's all in the sandbox of this massive island level. I think last thing I want to talk about here is like I've talked a lot about Halo over the years. I really love this game if you can't tell. But I've tried to introduce it to a lot of people and they haven't always clicked with it. And I think part of the reason is that if you play this game on normal difficulty, or if you just play it through like you're playing any other FPS, you're just doing the linear narrative experience, then you may only have this beachhead fight one time, right? If you're playing on a harder difficulty like heroic or legendary, then you're probably going to die a couple times when you're trying to take this beachhead and trying to play some of these more complicated fights. And because of that, you're going to start seeing the variation. You're going to start seeing the depth of the game systems and the depth of the AI. And once you start realizing that, it's like, oh my God, this game is so rich with possibilities. I can do all sorts of stuff to make this experience my own. And once that clicks, then Halo is a really exciting game. But like if you're playing through on normal and you basically never die, you may not have that realization. And like I also understand that for some people, I'm playing on keyboard and mouse right now, so I've got the extra advantage of being able to aim a little more precisely than with a controller. But like obviously difficulty is related to accessibility in some ways. Not everybody's going to be able to do the legendary difficulty and get that experience. But I think like another option of having the experience that I'm describing is exactly what I've been doing, of just reloading the checkpoint, right? Playing the map over to see the encounter a second time. I know that can be kind of a time sink, and also like it's not really built into. It's kind of a hidden feature of the game, right? Like, if you were playing Doom or Quake and you were reloading, well, they don't even have checkpoints, but if you're reloading checkpoints or reloading quick saves, I guess would be the more apt comparison. You're probably going to have basically the same fight in the next room. If you actually want to get variety in each fight, then the variety comes more from how you've managed your resources across the whole level, right? Like, Oh, this time I played the fight, I didn't have any nail ammo, so I had to use my shotgun, even though that was not the ideal weapon. I played the map again. This time I've got more nail ammo, but maybe I have a grenade launcher as well because of a secret that I found. And that's what creates the variety in the encounters. But here, with the same starting conditions of the pistol and the assault rifle, and the same number of friendly AIs and the same enemy positions, there's so much variety just in this first encounter. Um, and basically the whole map, as we play through it, becomes more and more rich like this. Like there's a rocket launcher in one spot, and if I wanted to, I could grab that rocket launcher and take it to a fight that it's not meant for, or I could take the rocket launcher, use it right away, or I could just avoid the rocket launcher if I wanted to. Later on in the game, the level after this, Assault in the Control Room, there's a Warthog, which is this kind of Jeep thing. There's a tank. Obviously, I can only drive one at a time, so I have to pick. Do I want to drive a Warthog and be like fast and agile, or do I want to drive a tank and be able to, shoot tank rounds? There's also a sniper rifle and a rocket launcher and active camo, and you only have the 2 weapon slots. So there's just so much choice in the sandbox to make the experience your own that you really aren't going to see everything in just one playthrough. And I think this is one of those things that makes me wish that, for myself, the way I play it is like, okay, I turn up the difficulty as hard as I can. In this case, I don't have any skulls on, but you could turn on the skull modifiers to make it harder as well. And that's a way to force me to start doing these calculations of target priority and tactics and how to manipulate the AI to overcome the encounter. But if you're playing on normal or even on heroic, where that challenge isn't quite as extreme, or again, like if difficulty isn't really the experience you want, then you aren't going to get that variety. So it makes me wish there was something built into the game design to encourage more of that variety. Um, I'm not sure exactly what that would be. I know they have with the Master Chief Collection Remaster, they've got like the score systems and leaderboards, which encourages replaying and going back and trying to beat your par time and your score, and stuff like that. It also like turns on a bunch of notifications of like combos and kill streaks and stuff like that, which can be a lot of fun and can be a good way of replaying the content. But again, like this is such a different mindset from I think how most people approach a single player campaign. They're playing through for the set pieces and the big experiences. And if they take that mindset to Halo, um, the set pieces aren't that strong, at least in the first game. Um, it's more about this substance that isn't immediately apparent. But yeah, I think that's all I have to say about this. So I guess thanks for listening to me ramble a little bit. It's not a sewer level, but yeah. All right, see ya.